Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic Hypersonic.
Positronic Hypersonic.
Positronic Hypersonic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and I'm here to talk to you about the season 2 finale of Doctor Who. It was called The Reality War. And as the episode starts, Anita, the Doctor's very good friend from the Time Hotel, which we saw in the last Christmas special, comes through a door that opens right onto the balcony, from which she saves the Doctor, thereby causing him to avoid plummeting to the ground below. Anita then explains that not only has she looked for the Doctor for a long time, and that she did run into him in other incarnations, as well as in this incarnation when he met Rogue, an event that left her a little bit heartbroken and sent her into the arms of a coworker whose child she is now carrying, but also that May 23rd, 2025 keeps repeating. And the Doctor says the reason would seem to be that the Rani needs it to, so that it can wear thin and break reality so that Omega can escape. The Doctor then visits John Smith's home and takes Belinda and Poppy to the Time Hotel, where Belinda remembers who she, Poppy, and the Doctor are. Apparently, the Doctor and Belinda actually did somehow have a daughter. The Doctor then visits John's work, the building that, of course, in the real world is unit headquarters, where he exposes everyone to the real world via the Time Hotel's energy through an open door to the Time Hotel, which wakes up Kate Lethbridge Stewart and all his friends, as well as manifests Donna's daughter, Rose, who wasn't previously there because Conrad couldn't dream of her and put her into his fake reality. Kate then uses unit tech to wake up Mel, Ruby, and others who I guess had some kind of implant in them because they are associated with unit, and they converge on unit headquarters, followed in short order by the Rani, who argues with the Doctor over her plan to resurrect Gallifrey using Omega's DNA, which she needs because Time Lords are sterile. It turns out that if she succeeds, Conrad's world, and therefore Poppy, would cease to exist. The Rani tells the Doctor that he has a choice to make before disappearing, after which the Bone Beast dinosaur thing goes on the attack as the Doctor puts Poppy in a little room, the interior of which exists outside of time to protect her in case the Wish World ends, and Belinda goes with her, despite the risk of her ending up existing in solitude forever in that room if the Doctor fails to stop the Rani. Unit attacks the Beast with all it has, but it keeps coming and damaging Unit HQ, which eventually has to turn itself around like on a swivel to keep shooting at the Bone Beast and its bony friends, who are now also converging on the headquarters. The Doctor reveals that he managed to copy the Rani's codes when they faced each other down with each other's sonic screwdrivers, and he uses it to gain access to her bone palace. Ruby then joins him there by means of a sort of teleportation backpack that she was given by Unit, and confronts Conrad as the Rani summons forth Omega, who's become a giant skeleton creature and who says he will now feast on the world before eating the Rani, causing Mrs. Flood to grab the Rani's fallen time bracelet and escape. The Doctor then zaps Omega with the Vindicator, expelling him back to the Underverse, as Ruby grabs the Wish Baby from Conrad and wishes Conrad happy before unwishing Wish World and saving Earth from the destruction of May 24th, as the Doctor finds his TARDIS, with Ruby inside it, in the Bone Palace, at which point he wishes for no more wishes, before racing back to the box to find Belinda and Poppy inside. As Belinda and the Doctor talk in the TARDIS about showing Poppy the universe, and keep exchanging Poppy's coat back and forth between them, it gets ever smaller as they each fold it on their turn until it disappears. After which it seems that neither Belinda nor the Doctor remember Poppy existing as their daughter, and only the Doctor and Ruby remember her as a baby they once met in space from last season. The Doctor then says goodbye to Anita, who tells him that the boss says hello, which the Doctor doesn't immediately understand. It turns out that the reconstituted world has a few changes to it, including the fact that Ernest Borgnine is still alive, and the fact that Conrad is now a mild-mannered chef. So Ruby insists that Poppy be found wherever she is, and be saved by the Doctor, just like the Doctor saved both Ruby and Belinda from almost not existing, And the Doctor goes off alone in the TARDIS, swearing to find her, before saying that he likes his current face in a sort of foreshadowing moment. Before the TARDIS shows him previous versions of himself. Before the 13th Doctor shows up, explaining that she's been pulled out of her previous reality, prompting the current Doctor to say he's surprised that it wasn't the other guy who's always showing up, in an obvious reference to David Tennant's 10th Doctor. Apparently, the current Doctor plans to release a whole bunch of regeneration energy into the vortex to shift reality 1 degree to get Poppy back, which he does just after the 13th Doctor departs, though he suspects that it will end up in his regeneration. After this has its effect on reality, he wakes up and finds himself in Belinda's backyard, where he shakes off a regeneration before learning that Poppy is there, and that Belinda had always been trying to get back to Poppy, whose actual father is a man called Richie, making Poppy 100% human. The Doctor tells Poppy that though he can't have his own children, if he could, he would wish her to be exactly like Poppy, though he wished away all the wishes. The Doctor then departs, promising to come back to take Belinda to Jupiter, explaining that he may look different and that he loves her and Poppy. Stopping the TARDIS somewhere in space, the Doctor dims all the lights before going to the threshold to gaze at Joy, the star, from last year's Christmas special, before regenerating into a female Doctor with the face of Rose Tyler, played, of course, by Billie Piper. And that's where the episode and season 2 ended. So I did enjoy this episode quite a bit, mostly because it had a relentless pace. It was just beat after beat after beat. It didn't slow down, and it was very intense and I guess you could say action-packed. I really liked the Ronnie character, so I enjoyed her being in it. That was definitely one of the reasons I enjoyed it. They finally used Ruby well in a season 2 episode. She was in 3 of them. The first one I didn't like. The second one she was in, she was okay, but they didn't do too much with her. In this one, they really let her shine again like they had in the prior season, so I really enjoyed that. And Ncuti Gatwa was, of course, excellent once again as the Doctor. I enjoyed all of Belinda's moments. I also liked how they ended up leaving things with Poppy vis-a-vis how she came to exist versus how they explained it in the middle of the episode, which was to say that she magically got created as the Doctor and Belinda's daughter because of their affection for each other or something like that in the Wish world. And I guess was created out of the Doctor's memory of actual Poppy, the space baby, which I didn't think made a whole lot of sense, whereas now she's just a regular human born the regular way, and I think that's cool. And what added a little bit of extra sense to it was that they showed us flashbacks where Belinda was always telling the Doctor that she had to get back to Poppy, even though that isn't what happened. But when he changed reality, that became part of the past. So I thought that was cool. I also really loved seeing the 13th Doctor. Jodie's era was not one of my favorite eras since I've been watching the show, but I did like her as the Doctor. I don't think the stories they gave her were great, so I don't think much of those episodes, but I did like her as the Doctor. I did like her relationship with Val and the other companions. I did like the other companions as well. So it was cool seeing her. I thought that was a cool thing that they did. And I was glad that, yes, they didn't use David Tennant. Because as much as David Tennant is, in fact, my very favorite Doctor, I think it would have been massively gimmicky to have him show up yet again. So I'm glad that they didn't do that. And it was cool that they poked fun at the fact that they keep bringing him in. So I enjoyed that. So that's everything that I liked. Let's talk about a couple things that I didn't like. The story with Omega was thin. In other words, I thought they were going to bring him in early in the episode and that there would be a little bit of back and forth for a period of time between him and the Doctor, because I'm not at all familiar with the character because it pre-exists my time watching the show. But I was intrigued by the concept, and I was hoping we'd get to see a little bit of that character, interacting with the Doctor in terms of like having a battle of wits and so forth. But that didn't happen. They kind of just brought him in for a few seconds and then zapped him away. And I thought that was kind of lame, given the buildup. I also don't like that they keep referring to the Doctor as the last of the Time Lords. We know he isn't. We know that the Master exists, right? They've never said that the Master is dead. And he knows that 14 still exists. And he has his own TARDIS. So, whether he actively uses it or not, or what have you, he's a Time Lord. So they keep saying he's the last of the Time Lords, but it's not true. Something that confused me until I looked it up was how the doctor said that he was sterile, because we know he has a granddaughter and that he had a daughter who gave birth to this granddaughter. So I was confused at first as to how it could be that Time Lords are sterile, but apparently that happened after he had his daughter. So it makes sense. And of course, his other daughter is just a clone for all intents and purposes. But on the subject of his granddaughter, what was that? Why didn't they bring her in? Why did they tease her and then she's not in the episode? She plays no part in the story of the final episode. I thought that was kind of silly. Now, maybe it's because they were setting her up for us to see her at some point in the future. And I suppose that's cool, but the actress is not young. So I don't know, maybe they already shot stuff? I don't know. But if so, it wouldn't be with Ncuti, because Ncuti, as we now know, has left the series, which brings me to another thing that I don't like, which is that Ncuti Gatwa is no longer the Doctor. I really liked him in the part. I know other people have issues with his characterization of the Doctor, that he was too emotional or whatever, and that the gay thing was there, but I didn't mind any of that myself. And I thought that his performances were all just super powerful and really, really good. In fact, I was thrilled to be able to take a picture of myself standing next to the 15th Doctor wax statue at Madame Tussauds back in April in London, because I like the character, with him in the role so much, but he's already gone. And there's some speculation that he was fired because he backed out of presenting at the Eurovision Awards over some concerns about Israel's participation in the event. And so he was fired, but I can't believe that's true. But anyway, I was sad to see him go. I really, really was, because I liked his portrayal. And, since the Ninth Doctor, every other Doctor has done 3 seasons, and I was hoping he would as well, but it's not to be. So I didn't like that. Now, that brings us to probably the biggest thing that happened in this episode, which is that the Doctor regenerated once again into a female version, and she looks exactly like Rose Tyler, who, of course, is a fan favorite character, played by one of my favorite actresses on the planet, Billie Piper, whom I've met. And I don't know what to think about that. I hope that what they do with it is say that she is just a new version of the Doctor that looks like Rose Tyler, not that she is Rose Tyler, because that wouldn't make sense. So as long as they do that, I'll be happy with it. But I have questions. Some fans are speculating that she's not the 16th Doctor, because at the end of the episode it said, and introducing Billie Piper, but it didn't say what it said about Ncuti Gatwa at the beginning of his run, which was, and introducing Ncuti Gatwa as the 15th Doctor. So some people are speculating that she's not the 16th Doctor. The thing is, she is, just by virtue of having generated that way, just like David Tennant, whom I've met, is the 10th and 14th Doctor. So she is the 16th Doctor. The question is there going to be a whole season of Billie Piper as the Doctor? That's a 2-part question, because we don't know for sure that there's going to be a season 3 at all. Disney commissioned 26 episodes and they've made 21. My understanding is that there isn't going to be a Christmas special this year. So that leaves 5 regular episodes that Disney owes on their contract. So are they going to add 3 or 4 and make a full season? Put up some more money, add 3 or 4 episodes to the 5 that they owe and make a full season 3? Are they going to give us a 5-part special thing that isn't actually a season with Billie Piper as the 16th Doctor? Or is Disney somehow going to back out of the contract and not pay to produce the next 5 episodes? We don't know. The other part of the question is, if there is going to be a season 3, are they going to use Billie Piper as a 16th Doctor for the whole season? Or is she going to get like a 1 or 2 episode run and then regenerate again? I wouldn't be surprised if whatever they do results in Billie Piper only doing a few episodes as the Doctor, because it feels kind of like one of those special gimmicky things that they do sometimes, bring back old Doctors, like they've brought back some of the older ones, like they brought back David Tennant a couple times. And so it just seems like one of those things to me that's not a full go kind of thing, a full season kind of thing. And certainly I don't think multiple seasons. I just don't think they would do that. And I don't think Billie Piper would be interested in doing that. Although I could be wrong. She does have great affection for Doctor Who and for Rose Tyler. So who knows? But I think for her to commit to a couple of seasons as the new Doctor is an unlikely thing. I don't think that's what we're going to get. So we'll have to see. Time will tell, as it were. What will disappoint me the most is if we don't get any episodes at all with her as the Doctor. That will bum me out completely. Anything over that will be great, but I do, now that they've opened this door, I do want to see her at least get to play the Doctor once. That would be very cool. Anyway, that's really all there is to say, so I'm going to get out of here. I will be back with another video soon. Until I return, I wish you peace and long life.